and welcome back to another video about a children's trading card game, One Piece content. Let's begin, no messing around. We're going to be talking about the blue starter deck today, ST03, and this is, in my opinion, a horrendously confused and really quite bad starter deck, but let's go ahead and talk about why. We'll begin with the leader, Crocodile. This dude, Baroque Works and a Shichibukai 7 Wars of the Sea, that will be relevant in the main set, but let's talk about this in the confines of the starter deck. Activate main once per turn, Don -4, bounce a 5 cost or lower character to its owner's hand. This is in a colour with basically no access to ramp at the moment, so this is a hefty cost, setting you back those 4 Dons, and really something you're only going to want to be doing on the kill turn. And a leader effect, which is only doing something on the turn you want to end the game, or you kind of throw, is not necessarily the best. Obviously, you can Don stuff up, swing with something, and then lose those Dons, so to make the impact less, but still, you know, it's not great. So this is kind of like a once per game leader effect, and the leader effect isn't even that good. This is something like you'd want to have access to every few turns, right? Like for it to really be good, so I'm a little, you know, iffy on it. I definitely don't think it's particularly good, and I'm hoping for a better version in the main set, to be perfectly honest. Moving on to the actual cards in the starter deck, we'll do all the vanillas first, because my opinion on them is always the same. So we've got Edward Weevil here as a vanilla, we've got Buggy D. Clown, we've got Jimbei, and we've got the Pacifista. Now, I will say the Pacifista is an exception, and we'll talk about why later, but the rest of these you're absolutely not going to play in the main set. They're instantly just going to go into your garbage binder. Let's talk about these cards. So first we've got this 5-drop here, 6k power, blocker Crocodile, which has when blocking, if donned, return up to one of your opponent's 2 cost or lower characters to the bottom of the opponent's deck. So obviously the advantage here is this is an exceedingly powerful form of removal, arguably even better than just destroying the card, because putting it to the bottom deck means it can't be salvaged and they can't gain any advantage from it in that way. But 2 or lower, it's not much. And we are going to have to see to what extent that matters. You know, obviously, rush decks are playing a lot of 2-drop or lower, but they're also playing a lot of 3-drops, right? And if this was a 3-drop or lower, I would be way more inclined to say this is a really powerful card. At the moment, I'm very iffy on it. Obviously, it being a blocker is good. You know, a 6k blocker for 5 actually seems quite nice. But, like, you know, it's just, I just don't know that this is a powerful enough effect to, like, justify, like, you know, basically doing nothing on the turn you play it, right? Like, you're going to slam this down, you're going to don it up because it needs to have that don that's down. You're not going to attack with it because, like, you got to have it, like, live there. Also, your opponent could just, like, you know, nuke it through one of the various ways there are of dealing with blockers. So, you know, or they could also just not have any units that are applicable. This is not even a counter, so it's not like you can just, like, include it in your deck and then pitch it if it ends up not being useful. So, yeah, already one of the SRs not being particularly great is a bit of an L. Let's talk about Gecko Moria. This is a 4-drop 5k, 1k counter. On play, add a Shichibukai or a Thriller Bark Pirates character with a cost of 4 or less, other than Gecko Moria, from the trash to your hand. So this is going to let you add some of these cards back. The biggest problem at the moment is there aren't really that many Shichibukais I would want to be adding back with this ability. So we will see. Obviously, you can't salvage yourself, so you can't get that infinite loop. And this is certainly not a bad effect, don't get me wrong. I think at the moment there's just a general lack of good targets. So we will see if this gets better in the future, but yeah, at the moment, this is a decent effect without really many good targets. Then we have got Dracula Mihawk, and this is probably one of the most generically powerful cards in this starter deck. It's 4-drop 5k, don 1 when it attacks, so it'll be attacking for 6k, draw 2, then discard 2, and it's also got a 2k counter, so do not sleep on these 2k counters. This is super good, I think, in my opinion. You know, you don't have to don enough if you don't want this, but like draw 2, discard 2, that's going to really let you fix hands. This is a really, really good card. I think maybe the best card in this starter deck. It's up there, and definitely a card you're going to be seeing all over the place in blue, I think. Then we have got Centumaru. This is the 3-drop 4k Marines character. Don 1 once per turn. You pay 2 to play a 4-cost or lower Pacifista from your deck and then shuffle your deck. Right. So this is going to be a 5k. Now, it's an activate main, so you don't actually have to attack with it to just get out the Pacifistas. And obviously, if you can, like, you know, you don't actually have to rest this character, so, like, if you play this early on, right, like, this can suddenly just be a completely insane advantage engine that just lets you constantly bring out these big big pacifistas, and that is interesting, right? So we will see how good this ends up being. This is definitely going to be way more of a build around kind of thing. We've seen this pacifistas in the main set, so we'll see what happens with that. Obviously, in the starter deck, I'm just like, sure, but like, you know, I thought this was a Chichibukai starter deck, and it's kind of confused because it's like, okay, but this doesn't really synergize with anything. So yeah, this potential, definitely potential. Then we got Fargo Law, who's a 1k blocker, which, you know, we have no idea how good these are going to be. On the one hand, they're cheap, they serve their purpose. On the other hand, they're susceptible to every single kind of removal. There's lots of ways of getting around blockers, like, already. So how good is this going to be? We will see. I'm not convinced it's going to be particularly strong, but it might be. And it doesn't even have a counter, so you can't even pitch it if it ends up, you know, being dead. Though, to be fair, 1k blocker, 1k blocker, you probably are just going to play it no matter what. Then we've got the other SR, Don Quixote do Flamingo. This is probably the best card in the starter deck. On play, you bounce a 7-drop Wallower, and for pretty much all intents and purposes, like a 7, like returning a card to hand is removal, you know, because of summoning sickness in this game. But, you know, if that unit has an on play, if it has a counter, you know, you're kind of sitting there like, okay, was this really worth it? Well, I mean, it could be, right? Because this hits cards like the Kid from the starter deck, the Blocker Kid, which is gonna really piss your opponent off because they will have invested like a whole turn into that guy, right? So, you know, I think this is a really powerful card because it kind of removes basically everything, and it's also a 7k itself, so it hits hard, and you're gaining that immediate value. I think this is a pretty good card. It's very generic as well, so really easy to just slap into stuff. So yeah, definitely a card to like be aware of if you're up against blue. Like, you could just lose anything at any moment. Next, we have got Bartholomew Humor, 2-drop 3k. On play, look at 3 cards from the top of your deck and return the top or bottom of the deck in any order, and the trigger plays this card. This is probably, again, one of the better cards. It's that filter, you know, like, you just get to look at them and decide if you want them or not. The trigger plays the card, you get the on play, so like, it's just really good. It's cheap, so you're getting that value out of it. And blue does have more of these cards as well, like Perona. But yeah, I think like my biggest complaint about this card is it doesn't have counter, because it'd be nice to be able to pitch it, but, you know, like, that's fine. I think this is a pretty good card. Definitely one of the ones you will actually be playing, and I get it, like, okay, you can salvage this with Gecko Moria and really get that advantage train potentially going, but like, it doesn't draw you the card. It just like make sure what you're drawing is good, which is fine. But, you know, I mean, like, you know, in theory, in a well-built deck, you're kind of happy with most things you're going to be drawing. Obviously, I understand you want to hit out to a certain situation. You can guarantee that. You can like increase the odds. I get it. But like, still, you know, it's okay though. It's definitely good. I'd say good, not okay. Then we've got Boa Hancock. This is an interesting card. So this is a 3-cost 1k blocker with a trigger to play the card and a counter for 1k. And I think this is a good time to have this discussion about trigger abilities, right? Like, to what extent should you give a shit about them? I would say, honestly, until we are able to guarantee, like, being able to swap cards from life or something, I would not be building your deck around them, right? Like, yes, I understand, like, if you hit this as a trigger, this could, like, save you, right? Like, this could stop you from dying. But are you really going to put in a card that is, like, objectively not very good into your deck for that niche situation? Maybe. You might. Who's to say? I don't know. But, you know, I think, like, I'm hesitant, you know, I'm hesitant. I'm leaning towards yes, and that's purely because these cards were quite good in Digimon, which is a similar enough game that potentially that does transfer over. But, you know, I will say that, like, this is a really powerful, like, trigger ability, right? Because you're getting a blocker. So if it's a turn where you're about to lose, well, maybe now you're not about to lose because, you know, your opponent now suddenly has to deal with this. But it's also a card your opponent's going to be very aware of. They're probably, you know, you would think a good opponent is not going to put all their eggs in one basket and then start attacking. They're probably going to try and structure their turn to, like, see what happens, see what bits of interaction you have. And then they can potentially play around this, not overinvest, you know, keep themselves alive. We'll see. I think if there's a way to guarantee to get this in life, though, like, this is going to be, like, a way better card. This is going to be amazing. But at the moment, it's, like, fine. You know, it's luck-based. If it ends up in there, cool. If it doesn't, okay, we've got a pretty overly priced unit that's only really good for a shield, so, yeah. Next, we've got Marshall D. Teach. 4-drop 4k, on play, return a character with a cost of 3 or less to the owner's hand. It has a 1k counter. Now, I will say, this is an interesting card because, you know, it's any character, and this can potentially synergize with your own stuff, right? Like, you can play Kuma, use Kuma, play Teach, bounce Kuma, play Kuma again if you really want to be digging. You can use Centumaru's effect. because I believe these once per turn mean like per card, right? So you can play Centumaru, play Blackbeard, bounce Centumaru, play Centumaru again, use Centumaru again. Very, very doable, I think, assuming that's how these once per turns work in this game. So this is a cool combo card, and how good Blackbeard basically ends up being, I think, is going to entirely depend on the extent to which those combos are viable. Then we've got Sables here. So this is a 4-cost event. Main, return one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 7 or less to its owner's hand, and trigger activates the card's main effect. You know, as I've said, this is functionally removal. You know, like almost as good as destroying card. With the difference being, like, this is, as a trigger, devastating, right? Like, this is going to really screw up your opponent's turn if they haven't already attacked with all the characters, and even if they have, you can set up your own turn. And obviously, it's less good on your own turn, but, you know, still, like, very powerful removal. I don't think this is a card we should be sleeping on. I think this is a card that is going to really piss people off. It's going to be the same as, like, is it Jet Pistol, I think, from the Red Starter deck, where you just get to nuke something. This is going to be the same kind of deal, where it's going to be really frustrating to deal with if your opponent hits it in that trigger, and it's just a good generic piece of removal anyway. So I am very sweet on this card, should we say. I think it's pretty good. Then we've got Thrust Powered Cannon. This is a 2-cost event counter. Return a character with cost 3 or less to its owner's hand. Trigger activates card's counter and it costs 2. I am very hesitant to say this card's going to be good outside of the situation when rush decks are like everywhere, in which case, like, yes, this is probably going to be really nice because you can just, like, bounce whatever your opponent hasn't attacked with, or you can, like, bounce whatever your opponent has attacked with. Otherwise, like, I mean, what are you really using this for? To bounce your own stuff, or to bounce, like, some crappy tiny opponent's things? I'm like, it's fine, you know, like, how good is it really going to be? Probably not amazing, but it could be quite good, depending on the meta. And finally, we've got Love Beam. This is a 2-cost event counter. Your leader or up to one of your characters gains 4k power for the duration of the battle, and then, if you've got a low card in hand, you draw 1. I think this is an amazing card, because, you know, it's 2 costs to gain that 4k counter, which, you know, I spoke about in the kids deck, like, okay, you've got to leave those dons on tap, but, like, you know, excluding that, this is literally, like, during the late game, like, this is a card that's literally going to let you dig for more defensive tools, and I think that is really what pushes it up, because, like, you're not going to use this in the early game, basically, ever. You're waiting until later on. You're waiting for your opponent to be swinging in for, like, 8k. You're going to block it with this, draw another card, and that's, you know, really going to help you potentially survive, like, a kill turn. So I definitely think this is much better. With Crocodile, this can be a 1-drop or even free from the main set, because it reduces those cost of events. And obviously, if you're playing this for free, that's crazy, right? Like, that's nuts. So, yeah, I think this is a pretty good card, but, you know, obviously within the confines of the starter deck, kind of sucks. Well, not sucks, but it's, like, fine. So that is my review of the blue starter deck. As I said at the beginning, very confused, not that many amazing cards, doesn't really seem to do a whole lot proactively, a really mediocre, you know, leader effect, definitely the worst out of the starter decks. If you are going to a super pre-release, I would not recommend taking this one if you want to get that winner promo. But there we go. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Have I completely over or underrated some of these cards? Let me know. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel for more One Piece content, and I will see you guys in the next video. Cheers.